5.6. Okay. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नाम्ने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। टेक्स्ट 6. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो
भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो
भगवते वासुदेवाय।
एवं मनः कर्म वशं प्रयुङ्क्ते।
एवं मनः कर्म वशं प्रयुङ्क्ते
अविद्ययात्मन्य उपधीयमाने। प्रीतिर्न यावन्मयि वासुदेवे। न मुच्यते देह योगेन तावत्।
न मुच्यते देह योगेन तावत्।
Yes.
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna. Shla Prabhupada Ji ki jai. Translation. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated by fruitive activities. Therefore, until one has love of Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body again and again. When the mind is polluted by fruitive activity, the living entity wants to be elevated from one material position to another. Generally, everyone is involved in working hard day and night to improve his economic condition. Even when one understands the Vedic rituals, he becomes interested in promotion to heavenly planets, not knowing that one's real interest lies in returning home back to Godhead. By acting on the platform of fruitive activity, one wanders throughout the universe in different species and forms. Unless he comes in contact with a devotee of the Lord, a guru, he does not become attached to the service of Lord Vasudeva. Knowledge of Vasudeva requires many births to understand. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva 7.19, Vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sadurlabha. After struggling for existence for many births, one may take shelter at the lotus feet of Vasudeva Krishna. When this happens, one actually becomes wise and surrenders unto him. That is the only way to stop the repetition of birth and death. This is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 19.151 in the instructions given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Srila Rupa Goswami at Daswamedha Ghata. ब्रह्मानंद भ्रमिते कौन भाग्यवान जीव Guru Krishna prasade paye bhakti lata bij. The living entity wanders throughout different planets in different forms and bodies. But if by chance he comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, by the grace of the spiritual master, he receives Lord Krishna's shelter and his devotional life begins. Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna, Ji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated to fruitive activity. See, the scriptures say, Anandamayo Bhyasat. Living entity is meant to be happy. Living entity, that's the constitutional position of living entity, Anandamay. So, when he falls into the material nature, he tries to seek Ananda here also, without understanding the true nature of his existence. In the spiritual world, he is conducted by the Ladini potency of the Lord. He is himself a product of the Sandhini Shakti, but he is conducted by Ladini Shakti. Therefore, he is happy. He's Anandamai. The Lord is Anandamai. He is also Anandamai because he is in constant relation with Krishna. Mameva Ansha Jiva Loke. Actually, according to scriptures, Krishna expanded himself to enjoy, and his expansions are living entities, the Vibhinnamsh. So he expanded as Famsh and Vibhinnamsh. The only problem is the Vibhinnamsh is very weak and he can fall into material energy. So when he falls from Ladini Shakti under the spell of Bahya Shakti, Baharanga Shakti, then he's said to be under the influence of Maya. So under the influence of Baharanga Shakti, the external energy of the Lord, he is unable to understand who is the Lord and what is his own position with relation to the Lord. However, the tendency to be Anandamai, the tendency to be happy is very much there. So this proclivity to be happy manifests as sense gratification. The living entity is enjoying in Ladini Shakti. But when Ladini Shakti is unmanifest, then he tries to enjoy in Mahamaya or Maya Shakti. And therefore he becomes illusioned. So the love for God, the original love for God, manifests as perverted lust. As Krishna is also explaining in the Bhagavad Gita, that it is lust alone which is the enemy, which is the all-devouring enemy of the soul. So in the 3rd chapter, when Arjuna is asking this question, like what impels a living entity to engage in sinful activities, even though like almost against his own wishes? So Krishna is replying that it is the lust. And what is this lust? It is that same tendency to enjoy Ananda, which is covered over by Maya. Therefore, in the absence of Krishna, we try to enjoy Maya, and then we become completely covered over. However, if the living entity somehow or the other comes in contact with a pure Vaishnava and tries to revive his consciousness by following the rules and regulations of sadhana bhakti, he can be delivered. So Krishna is explaining in the 2nd chapter also, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasvarjam rasopyasya param dashtra nivartate. So the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for the sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So what does that mean? The tendency, the desire to enjoy will always remain there. So we have to replace the objective of that desire from material to spiritual. So in the process of bhakti, for example, this 9-step bhakti that we do, all the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord. Of course, there's a bit of an austerity. It's not easy. I mean, if you give up watching movies and then you start watching the lectures or you start watching DDs, it may not be very pleasant in the beginning because you are situated on the platform of Rajogun and Tamogun. But gradually, as you get up early in the morning, you clean yourself, you chant, and you follow the discipline of the mind, not allowing your mind to get distracted by sinful thoughts. Gradually, you will become elevated to the mode of goodness. And then bhakti would start appearing. And then bhakti would start appearing pleasant. So that is the process. You practice sadhana to be established in the mode of goodness. Then you will start getting attracted to the process of bhakti. So if you can give it a try, just 3 days, you get up at 3 in the morning, take your shower, start chanting your rounds, then do the Mangal Arati, then study the Bhagavatam or Gita for 1 hour or 2 hours. Just do this for 3 days and then you experience for yourself. So this is the process of bhakti. So like this, when the living entity has struggled for many, many births, then he comes to the shelter of the Supreme Lord. So an intelligent living entity thinks, why is he suffering? Who am I? Why am I suffering? So what could be the reason? So that is the beginning of Gyan. So at that stage, then he tries to find out the source of his own existence and the source of his happiness. So Bahunam Janmanam Ante Gyanvan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So eventually, after speculating for many, many years, when he comes to the shelter of a Vaishnava, then he becomes delivered from the material energy. Such a soul is very rare in this world. Yes, so this usually happens by the mercy of a Vaishnava. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here? Okay, we continue text 7. यदा न पश्यत्य अथया गुणेहम
यदा न पश्यत् स्वहनेनम्
स्वार्थे प्रमत्तः सहसा विपश्चित्
स्वप्ने प्रमत्तः विपश्यत्
गतस्मृतिर्विन्दति तत्र तापान्
गति
आसाद्य मैथुन्यम अगारम अज्ञः
असाध्य में
Yes,
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor for self-gratification is a useless waste of time, being forgetful of his own interest. He tries to be happy in the material world, concentrating his interest around his new home, which is based on sexual intercourse and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal. Purport. In this lowest stage of devotional life, one is not an unallied devotee. Anya bhasiste sunyam, jnanam karmidhe anvritam. To be an unallied devotee, one must be freed from all material desires and untouched by figurative activity and speculative knowledge. On the lower platform, one may sometimes be interested in philosophical speculation with a tinge of devotion. However, if this stage one is still interested in sense gratification and is contaminated by the mode of material nature, the influence of Maya is so strong that even a person advanced in knowledge actually forgets that he is Krishna's eternal servant. Therefore, he remains satisfied in his householder life, which is concentrated around sexual intercourse. Conceding to his life of sex, he agrees to suffer all kinds of material mistakes. Due to ignorance, one is thus bound by the chain of material laws. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvabana.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Yan maithunadi grah medhi sukham hi tuchham. So, in the absence of Krishna, in the absence of knowledge of Krishna, the living entity's propensity to love is perverted into sex desire. Thank you. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, "E dhana yavana putra parijana ite ki ache parati tire kamala dala jala jivana talaman bhajahu hari padani tire." See, this material stage of existence, everything is temporary and very uncertain. It's not just temporary, but we don't know how temporary it is. Anything can happen at any moment. When I was working with Tata Motors around 10, 11 years ago, actually it was more than that, around 13 years ago, one of my bosses, he was a very young man, might have been just 42, 43 at that time. He was one of the youngest achievers of Tata Motors. And he was at the age of 43, 44, he was the head of India Fiat joint venture, Tata Fiat joint venture. And one day he just went home from, and he used to work extremely hard. He used to come to office at around 7:30 in the morning and go back at around 12:30 in the night. So, and he would even work on Saturdays. So one of those guys who was working so hard, one day he just went home. He was under a lot of stress. He had his dinner. He had a heart attack and he just died. And that was it. Finished. The story was over. Human birth was finished. Because if you spend all your life in just working for tractors and trucks and cars, and you've been eating meat and drinking alcohol, what good destination can you possibly have? So you see, being forgetful of his, so even though one may be very learned and wise, he's mad if he does not understand the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time. Being forgetful of his own interest, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interests around his home, which is based on sexual intercourse, and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish man. So you see, one may be very learned and wise in this world. One may be like a doctor, an engineer, or whatever. But if he is just working to satisfy his husband, his wife or her husband or child or family members, then that's really foolishness, because animals also do the same thing. The dogs have their families, the donkeys have families, cows have families. So what's the big deal? What is the use of you acquiring a medical or engineering degree if you're going to do the same thing that a dog or a camel can do also, without having to undergo so much of hard work? A human being works hard for 25, 30 years acquiring education, and then he works even harder to acquire some money, and then he just engages in those activities which are available to animals also, without any endeavor. The dog has a life for 13, 14 years, and in that life he has countless children, countless families, and he doesn't need to go to any university or college to acquire some degrees or something. He just does it free of charge. He doesn't have to take his, Mrs. Dog to some vacations or, or his little puppies to some good destinations or send them to, some United States universities or something. No, he's just happy as he is. And in the end, he also dies. The human being also dies. So what is the difference? Dharmo hitesham adhiko shesho. So if one remains under the influence of Maya all the time, just engaging in these activities, he is no better than an animal. Actually, he's a polished animal. So in the beginning stages of devotion, one may not be very pure. So the description of pure devotion is anyabhilashita shunya jnana karmadya anavrittam. So jnana karmadi anavrittam, jnana and karma, we have to be free from this, from speculative knowledge and materialistic desires, materialistic sense gratification. So in the beginning stages of bhakti, both these would be there. Our knowledge is speculative. Oh, Krishna could be like this, Krishna could be like that. What do you think, Prabhuji? That is speculative knowledge. And there is karma, definitely, because we are engaged in so much sense gratification outside of Krishna consciousness. So, there would be some tinges of bhakti. So as we go on practicing our sadhana, we will become more and more freed from material desires. And then gradually we'll be able to elevate ourselves to the platform of pure devotion. So therefore, sadhana is an absolute must for the beginners. There's no question of spontaneous devotion for the beginners. You have to practice the strict rules and regulations of sadhana. In between, you can know about the pastimes of Krishna just to stay motivated, but also understand that at this stage, you cannot really understand that. So therefore, one has to purify oneself gradually by practicing chanting, reading, associating with sadhus, taking prasadam, and then one will come to the platform of pure devotion. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
I have a question from the previous verse. Was about this finding a bona fide spiritual master. So it becomes fortunate if you can find that. So then that if you find a unbona fide or if you follow an unbona fide spiritual master, then that schema forward is also kind of wasted.
Yeah, if you have if you find a spiritual master who is not bona fide, it's It's as good as not having any spiritual master.
Hmm.
If you have to go from point A to point B, and if you go to point C, it's as good as not reaching point B. It's the same thing.
Hmm.
Shama eva hi kevalam. Under a non-bona fide spiritual master, one simply wastes his life. The guru will go to hell, the disciple will also go to hell.
Hmm.
So spiritual master must be self-realized. Otherwise, what kind of a spiritual master is that? What is he teaching? If one is not qualified, what education can one give to the others? So therefore, spiritual master means self-realized soul, bona fide spiritual master. There's no question of a non-bona fide spiritual master. Yeah, but yes, to answer your question, if the spiritual master is not bona fide, one will go to hell. Yes, Mataji, you have a question also?
Ji, Ji Prabhuji. So we say we are Tathastha Shakti, right? We are in the middle of both Yoga Maya and Mahamaya.
Yeah.
Yet we are so weak that we get under the influence of Maya. So if we are in the middle, why do we fall into prey of Mahamaya then?
We don't fall prey, we jump into Mahamaya. In the
No,
second
we are in the
canto of
middle. No,
Bhagavad-
Mahamaya.
Hmm.
Krishna says you are, well, first is Yoga Maya, then Tathastha Shakti, then Mahamaya. Yet
Yeah.
we fall into Mahamaya.
Yeah. See, we jump into Maya. Maya is not coming to capture us. We
True.
gladly enjoy Maya. You go to Las Vegas, you go to this Dubai. What is that? All that. Mahamaya. See, we go into it. If you see this verse, Krishnera bahirmukh haya bhoga vancha kare, nikatestha maya tara japatiya dhare. So Krishnera bahirmukh. First we turn our face away from Krishna. Then we look into Maya. So we jump into Maya. Krishna is not sending
Yes.
us. Maya is not capturing us.
We become weak when we turn our face away from Krishna. That's where we get into influence. Is that how we should understand?
See, our nature is always to be attracted. So either if we turn our face away from Krishna, immediately Maya will be attractive to us.
True. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yes. So anyone else has a question or comment? Okay. Then we continue text 8.
So just one
Yes.
question.
Yeah.
So my point, we were talking about Yoga Maya and Maya and Krishna. I know Yoga Maya, Maya, both are the Shaktis of Krishna only. Then we jump into Mahamaya because we are in that surrounding. So that looks us more familiar. So naturally we are. But thing, other thing is about higher energy, that is Krishna. So Krishna is a total. So it's not attracted towards Krishna or towards the Yogamaya. Yogamaya means that you should worship Lakshmi Devi and all those goddesses, etc.
Yeah. See,
but we don't. I've seen also the lectures. Nowhere we are insisting that you go for Yogamaya devotion. They only go for.
See, Yoga Maya is Samvit Sandhini Ladini. We are a part of Yoga Maya. We are a part of Sandhini Shakti. But the problem is, as soon as you have seen Maya, you will be immediately attracted. You will be immediately captured. That is the problem of looking at Maya. Immediate capture. Then there is no question of looking back towards Krishna. Because by the time you turn and look back at Krishna, you would have already forgotten him. Nikatestha Maya Tara Japatiya Dhare. She just grabs you immediately. It's very, very attractive. Maya is supremely attractive. She's Krishna's energy. So immediately we are captured. And then so many, there are just, it's not that Maya is simply attractive. She binds us. Sometimes it is through love, sometimes it is through fear. So many cases. Big devotees have fallen because they fell prey to compassion. We see the example of Maharaj Bharat. Maharaj Bharat fell victim to compassion. Maya acted on his weakness of compassion. Bharat Maharaj was not lusty. He was not angry. He was not greedy. He was not envious. He was simply compassionate, which is actually a good quality. But because he became, compassionate to a wrong objective, he fell victim to Maya. Maya can act in any way.
Prabhuji, my only issue I wanted to know from you guys is that is Mahamaya and Yogamaya.
Yeah.
Now, if we don't go to Mahamaya, that means we go to Yogamaya.
Yes.
So why we are not attracted more towards Yogamaya and we are easily attracted to Mahamaya?
Because we are now in Mahamaya. Now we are thinking I am this body. We have forgotten Krishna, therefore we can't remember Mahamaya, Yogamaya also. So it's there. Yogamaya is here. We have this Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. There is Shabda Brahma. But forget Yogamaya. This is Krishna himself here. Shabda Brahma. But we are not attracted. We are attracted to Maya Devi. We want to see so many things. We want to talk to our son, our daughter, or our wife, our child, or so many things. Because we are now covered over. Ahankar, the layer of Ahankar has covered us over. Tamas is covering us. Tamas and Tamis, they are covering us. So we can't really see the Lord. So we have to purify ourselves, awaken ourselves.
The Mahamaya is rich.
Yes, then Mahamaya will be able to release us. She will be able to release us. She will release us in a moment, but we don't want her to release us.
Exactly. Sure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, what is the relationship between Maya and three modes of material nature?
Daivi Eshu Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. This material energy of mind, consisting of three modes of nature, is very difficult to overcome. So Rajoguna, Sattvagun, Tamogun are Maya.
So they are essentially the same thing.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay. All right.
Devi
Thank you.
Eshu Gunamayi.
Yeah. And ultimately, it's all driven by our desire.
Yes, our desire. We become attracted to it.
Prabhuji, I come in again on one point.
Yes, please.
CCA, that God has not, Krishna is not affected by the three gunas. Okay. Am I clear, Prabhu?
Yeah, how can Lord be attracted? Yeah, Lord is not attracted by that.
Exactly. They're written, and of course, that we know also. But at the same time, his body is, then should we take the body as material?
The Supreme Lord?
Three gunas is not affected. But what was his body? Is material bodies? Krishna taking various shapes and various avatars. Is
Krishna?
Spiritual body.
His body is completely spiritual. His body is Ananda. His body is like, bliss personified.
So though he looks like us, but he is a body personified.
Yeah. So he may look like us. In the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was even dusty and dirty, and his body was injured also.
When Bhimsen, okay. So he is Satchidanand, already not affected by three modes.
Not at all. Not at all. He's got nothing to do with three modes.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I think that's Suddha Sattva Guna, right? I mean, somebody who has transcended all three modes of material nature.
That's
Krishna is even above them. Yeah.
Yeah, he's situated in Vishuddha Sattva. His body is Ananda.
Yeah, Prabhu, that was mentioned here. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, so one of our favorite verses, text 8. Pumshama striya mithuni bhavametam. Tayor mitho hridaya grantimahu. Ato graha kshetra sutapta vittair. Janasya moho yam aham mameti.
Janasya moho.
Janasya mohoyam aham mameti.
Mameti.
Yes. So who would like to read?
May I read, Guruji?
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Translation.
Right.
The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sex serves as the natural attraction between man and woman, and when they are married, their relationship becomes more and more. Due to the entangling relationship between man and woman, there is a sense of illusion whereby one thinks this man is my husband or this woman is my wife. This is called Hridaya Granthi, the hard knot in the heart. This knot is very difficult to undo, even though a man and woman separate either for the principles of Varnashram or simply to get a divorce. In any case, the man always thinks of the woman and the woman always thinks of the man. Thus, a person becomes materially attached to family, property, and children. Although all of these are temporary, the possessor unfortunately identifies with his property and wealth. Sometimes, even after renunciation, one becomes attached to a temple or to a few things that constitute the property of the sannyasi, but such attachment is not as strong as family attachment. The attachment to the family is the strongest illusion. In the Satya Samhita, it is stated, Brahmadya Yajnavalkadya Muchyante Sri Sahayana Bodhyante Kechanai Tesham Vishesham Cha Vido Vidu. Sometimes it is found among exalted personalities like Lord Brahma that the wife and children are not a cause for bondage. On the contrary, the wife actually helps further spiritual life and liberation. Nonetheless, most people are bound by the knots of the marital relationship, and consequently they forget their relationship with Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So, the sex serves as a natural attraction between man and woman, and when they are married, their relationship becomes more involved. So you see, Pumshama Striya Mithuni Bhavam. See, Krishna, we have also, we know from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ekara Purusha Krishna Ara Sabhabhratya. Living entity by nature is feminine, female, Shakti. Krishna is Purusha. So all living entities are female. Ekala Purusha Krishna Ara Sabhabhratya. So this male-female attraction is natural because Krishna is attractive to living entities and living entities are attractive to Krishna. Both are attracted to each other. Therefore, that is a natural attraction. But in this material world, some living entities foolishly consider themselves Purusha and yet others consider themselves as Shakti. And therefore, this attraction is propagated. In the absence of Krishna, one living entity becomes attracted to another for the simple reason that there is living spark. Therefore, the species, within all the species of existence, there is this intense attraction between male and female. So, like there's an English saying that even the ugliest woman is attractive in the eyes of her husband. So this attraction manifests as the perverted lust or sex life. And then as soon as man and woman are united in sex life, immediately there is Hridaya Granthi, hard knot of material existence within the heart. And in this way, they cannot think of anything else except for each other, man or woman. In this age, now we may think that, in modern society, there are so many divorces and so many things happening. So this knot doesn't seem to be so strong. So the fact is that this knot has actually become harder. Men are thinking of many women are thinking of many men. Actually, in the previous ages, after marriage or even before marriage, a woman would not talk to any other man besides her own husband, her father or her husband. That was it. And then later on in the life, her son. These are the only three protectors of a woman. In the previous ages, actually a woman was not even eligible to take Diksha from a guru. Her husband was her spiritual master. So in this age also, actually, we should not encourage this kind of mixing between men and women. This is not according to the Siddhant, Shastra Siddhant. Only someone of the caliber of Srila Prabhupada can actually do it, but not us. We need to be very careful. Because there is natural attraction. This male-female attraction is natural. No one can say, oh, I am not attracted. Unless one is impotent, he'll naturally be attracted to female. So Shastras give very strict instructions in this regard. So this Varnashram process is actually to gradually purify oneself, but there is always a danger of falling down. So Ato Graha Kshetra Suta Apta Vittaya. So it's just an expansion of sex desire. Graha Kshetra Suta Apta Vittaya. So home, land, home, property, Suta, children, relatives, wealth. And in this way, the living entity becomes tied up with illusion more and more. In the old age, an old man is so worried. What will happen to my wife, to my children, to my property, to my children's children, to my relatives? In this way, this sex attraction manifests as so many difficulties in the life of a living entity. So, and sometimes even after renunciation, sannyasis remain attached to their property or something, though it may not be so strong. But there also is a danger because it's an attraction to material energy. So sometimes we see that sannyasis also fall down. They become victims to opposite sex. So therefore, a sannyasi, as far as possible, should stay away from all properties. There is no question of a sannyasi maintaining a congregation. No, Srila Prabhupada also, though it appeared that he had close disciples, but in reality, Srila Prabhupada was constantly on the move. He was changing his secretaries, he was changing his assistants. Srila Prabhupada was constantly on the move. He did not have a fixed inner circle. There were a few senior devotees whom Prabhupada confided in and who he would send for various missions, but he himself stayed aloof from everything. So that is real sannyas. So certainly sometimes husband-wife relation may not be an obstacle. Like if you remember the last canto, the story of Malayadhwaj and Vaidarbhi. So Vaidarbhi, who was Puranjan, who became Vaidarbhi, she was not a hindrance in the life of Malayadhwaj, who took sannyas, who did not take sannyas, he just went to meditate with Vaidarbhi as a Vanaprastha. And gradually he attained perfection, while Vaidarbhi was serving him all the time. So in this way, if wife is subservient and serving the husband nicely, the husband serves the wife nicely by giving her good instructions. And wife serves the husband physically. In this way, this relationship does not become a bondage. But then again, the rider is only one here. That the objective of one's life has to be Krishna. Then one cannot make any other objectives. So if the objective of life is Krishna, then one can do anything and will not be obstructed. But if the objective is not Krishna, if there are many other objectives, one will completely drown in the ocean of material existence. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here? Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
But you know, when I go back to chapter 3 of this canto,
Yeah.
This is verse 20, where Prakshit Maharaj is being addressed, Vishwanath, Vishnudat. How did it come? Why Prakshit Maharaj addressed Vishnudat?
Vishnudat is another name of Maharaj Parikshit.
Okay.
Vishnu Datta means one who surrendered to Vishnu.
Acha. Right. Because I could not find any person before and after. So I thought I'd take clarification from you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so if there are no questions, then we stop here tonight. Thank you very much, everyone. Tomorrow we continue with this narration. Please study the previous material before you come. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavad Pranam.
Thank you, Danda Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.